Hello all, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Apologies for the little bit of confusion as people were getting the wrong link, which is a little bit awkward, but I'm glad that everyone has been able to find their way over now. So welcome everybody to our free webinar talking about how monthly payments and how we can transition from termly to half-termly payments and how that can benefit you as a business. Please note that this is going to be recorded. You're more than welcome to join in the chats and add any questions that you have there. I will try my best to reply to you, or otherwise send them over to Rob at the end, and so he can then make all those answers for you. This recording will be sent out probably tomorrow, so that you can refer back to it. Rob will be taking care of all of the information today. So he's going to be leading us. Rob has had many years of experience within the dance industry. He has been managing a dance studio for the last 15 years. He's part of a baby toddler franchise. Anything basically to do with dancing, Rob has had his fingers in all of those pies. So I'm going to hand over to Rob, and he's going to be talking through everything that you need to know about moving over to monthly billing from termly. Take it away, Rob, and thank you again everyone for joining us today.
All right, thank you very much, Rebecca. So hi guys. Yeah, as Rebecca says, I've been involved with the dance world for pretty much forever. I am unfortunately the little brother of the big sister who was very involved in dance her old life. So I got dragged through it all, and it very quickly also became my career, as my sort of interests and skill sets were starting to align with her passion of running a dance studio. And I always say I got roped in 15 years ago and haven't looked back since. So when it comes to managing your payments and your finances at your business, it's something that ultimately we don't really care about as purpose-driven people. We just want to get in the studio and we just want to teach classes. But at the end of the day, money is what makes all those things happen. So we do have to, unfortunately, turn to the admin side of things and crack on with the taboo subject of taking money off people. And one thing that we can do to really help our customers and help our business is to transition to a monthly payment system. Now, part of the problem that is innately involved in that is that the service that we deliver is termly or half termly by nature, so it doesn't always neatly line up with people's paydays and things like that. And having been there myself, we used to charge half termly at our studio, and all the people that I've spoken to throughout the role that I do at Class Manager as well, is I know it's a big point of stress for a lot of people, is the idea of when and how to take monthly payments. So hopefully in this webinar we're going to cover some of the pitfalls, some of the common questions, but also a lot of the positives, and how to overcome those little pitfalls that do exist. So I'm going to just quickly click through a few slides. It's not going to be too death by PowerPoint. There's not too many. And as Rebecca said, if you do get questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and then we'll address as many as we can at the end. So we're just going to talk mainly about how to get started transitioning and understand what the difference is between the different types of monthly payments, because it actually means a couple of different things depending on who you ask. But before we do that, let's just talk about some of the benefits and the upsides. So the one that you're probably all here for, and the thing that you want to get out of monthly payments, is improving your cash flow. Because for most of us, our staff want to get paid monthly, our rent gets paid monthly, our licenses and insurances almost always offer the ability to pay monthly, even though a lot of them would rather you pay for the year up front. But you can very often break down all of your business expenses to be a monthly cost. So for us, it doesn't really make sense if things don't align in that way. We can definitely simplify the admin process when we do take monthly payments, because there's a lot of automation doors start to open, and it's a very family friendly way of taking payments. Again, thinking about the fact that a lot of our customers get paid monthly, if we can position ourselves in line with how they get paid, then there's more chance that they're going to pay us and pay us on time as well. Now, when we compare that to the termly, and here we've called it familiar but flawed, and it's not entirely flawed. There are definitely some positives to taking termly payments, and a few of them are listed here. One being that upfront injection of money when payday falls and you're a termly business, it is the woohoo, let's book a holiday to Spain kind of moment. But we also need to consider that payment has got to last us to the end of that term and all the monthly expenses that fall within it. So it is great to have that upfront cash injection if you have any leading expenses. Maybe you have venues that you hire where you have to pay for the whole lot, and if you don't pay for your 4 months up front, then the person who runs it says, well, I'm sorry, it's down to fastest finger first. So there are definitely times that you need that cash up front. There's and a key word here is perceived. There is a perceived customer commitment when it comes to termly payment, because we can think to ourselves, if they've paid for 12 weeks, then they're going to stay for 12 weeks, and that's fantastic. But we all know that's not entirely the case, and people do have a tendency of maybe flaking out on week 3 or week 4 if maybe the activity they've chosen isn't the one for them. And people are never too shy to ask for refunds if they know they're not coming back. So there is that perception of customer commitment. I used to run a program that was pay for the year, and there would still be people who maybe drop out on month 3 or month 4, and then they ask, oh yeah, but what about, we paid for the year, do we lose that? And it's just a really awkward conversation where you have to say, actually yes, because the program went ahead with your commitment in mind, and now if we were to refund you, then the program is less sustainable, and how you have to get into explaining all those extra things too, which you really don't want to have those kind of conversations with a customer. But a genuine positive is, if you're taking termly payments, you've only got to deal with them once a term, and terms only happen 3 times a year. So I know a lot of people who do still take termly and half termly payments, and they love that they only have to deal with it 3 times a year or 6 times a year. And the idea of going monthly, they go, well, why would I ever double or quadruple the amount of admin that I need to do? Surely that's more payments to ask for, more payments to chase. And to an extent, in that frame, they are right, but there's a huge caveat to that later on, which turns that negative into a massive positive, in my opinion at least. But then some disadvantages of taking termly or half termly payments is there is that big, what for you is a great upfront cash injection is for the customer a big lump sum to pay out upfront. And if a person was charging whatever equates to maybe £300 for the term, that's going to be quite a hefty amount for a lot of families to fork out. And if they never reach that amount of expendable income, then the chances of them joining is going to be a little bit more slim. Whereas if we were able to break that down into a more manageable amount, then the point at which they can onboard is a little bit lower. So there's a disadvantage of the price being a bit higher. There's also an element of unpredictability to your cash flow. You can look at last term and say, oh, well, last term was 12 weeks, next term is 13 or 11 weeks, so we're going to get roughly about the same. But we also don't know what the retention figure is going to be from one term to the next. Whereas when we're dealing with a monthly split, everything is a bit more averaged out, and it's a lot easier and a lot more reliable for you to predict your cash flow. Even with the transient nature of dance students or gymnastic students or football students, whatever hobby you're coming to us from, people will drop, swap, stop, change their mind. And when we're spreading that costs out, then the impact of one person joining or leaving is also spread out because of how we can pro rata that money coming in from the parent. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on too. And then the final sort of big challenge, and I found this in a huge way, so much so that I've put a whole slide on it later on, is payment recovery. So when a person falls behind on a termly or a half termly payment, because that is quite a lot of money, it's a higher point for them to climb back up to catch up. So if, again, we're talking about that term, if it's a £300 term, a person's got to catch up to £300 before they can then make a repayment. And people don't always instinctively go towards, oh, well, can I pay it off in chunks? They'll just kind of sit there ignoring your emails until they've got £300 knocking around. And because they possibly won't reach that figure, then that's when the debt starts to grow. And then they've been given another terms invoice. Now they're £600 and it's even more awkward. So there's just a few of the advantages and disadvantages of Termly, because it's no right or wrong answer. Absolutely not. But there are just pros and cons to both. And the point of this is that we believe that for you as a business and for your customers, there are a lot more pros to moving on to that monthly payment as well. Now, we've got a visual here because pay monthly means a couple of different things to different people. And for me, I had to learn this one the strange way, because when I came in with Class Manager and I started speaking to some of my colleagues who are more computer program minded, for them, pay monthly, and like a lot of our parents, it means something like this. I think you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can. So here we've got September, October, November, December, January, right through to the end of the academic year, where this little period here represents the August summer holidays. And in the traditional interpretation of pay monthly, it basically means you pay for the classes that happen in that month. So here in December, when we're closed for Christmas, and here, I think this will be April for the April holidays, and then here for July, where we break up halfway through when schools break up. Again, depends on your local authority as to how many weeks that is. And then here for August, we've got nothing to pay because no classes happen in August. Well, that is a correct interpretation of pay monthly. It's not wrong. It's just different to what most business owners will say or mean when they say monthly payments. And we mean more of a strategic approach, where we've actually taken an average of what the customer is going to attend or consume over the year, and we've broken that down into an average monthly payment. So we've left the little shadows in the background so you can see how where what was even still quite a spiky payment for the customer has become a nice level average, so they know exactly what they're paying. It becomes predictable for them, predictable for you. And importantly, and also worryingly, so this is something we're going to enjoy covering in a little while, is this August payment here. And I know I can't hear you guys right now, but I think there'll be some people despairing at the idea of an August payment. So I'm just going to leave a pin in that, and we'll come back to it, because it's something that put me off massively as well when we started talking about the idea of moving to a monthly payment. And now the August payment for me is something I really want to hold on to, because it's really, really beneficial to us. So next is just to finish off the visual of the termly and half termly commitments, and just to show in a different light what that payment looks like to your customers and how your cash flow looks. So we've left the ghosts of the monthly averages in and the terms just to show you what's happening. But then the blocks that are a darker shade of pink, red, that just shows you how much of a extra commitment you're asking for upfront from your customers, and why sometimes that's quite a spiky amount to pay. So here with Termly, you can see we're asking for nearly 3 or 4 months worth of payments that would cover this all in one go. So as a barrier to entry, Termly and half termly payments can sometimes be quite off-putting to people that have got those sort of cash flow well, not problems, but they want the cash flow to fall in line with how they get paid. So this formula is fantastic, and it will work for almost every hobby. It will work for almost every setup. And while on the face of it, it sometimes looks like we're just throwing algebra at you, this is actually how you work out your price, and it will just work whether you charge 5, 6, 7, 8 pound a class. If you're open for 39 weeks or 42 weeks or 35 weeks, all you need to do is take your class price, multiply it by the weeks in the school year that you are open for. Recommend starting from September and finishing in July as a normal academic year, and then divide that by 12. So if you are making any notes, it is just worth noting down class price, multiply by the weeks you're open, and then divided by the number of payments you want to take, which in most cases is 12. I know some people that take 11 payments because they want to completely circumvent that potentially awkward August payment, but we've got a better solution for you on that one anyway. And I would always warn people against charging 11 installments rather than 12. There's a couple of downsides. One is that you then have a drought in August for your cash flow. And the second is that if you have any competitors around you who've already adopted the 12 monthly style, then your prices are going to inherently look a bit higher because you're dividing your price by less rather than dividing it by 12. So that way you look a bit more expensive. Even that's not always a bad thing, but you look more expensive, even though actually you might be like for like on value for money. And then obviously I've cherry picked this example. I've used £5 a class and 39 weeks because it just so happens to nicely fall into 16.25 a month. But most numbers, when you do times them by your school year and divide it by the number of months that you're going to charge for, it sometimes spits out a random looking number. Like in this example, we've got £17.41. And when you're speaking to somebody, whether it's on a phone call or an email, a lead, a Facebook message, and they want to know, oh yeah, how much are the acro classes? And you say they're £17.41. You're going to sound like you're a very, very, very particular person because, and the 41 pence. So I would always recommend just round that up, never round it down, round it up to the nearest 5 pence. And it just makes it look like a more well thought out number rather than a neurotic, I've gone right down to the penny kind of figure. And the difference over the year that will make is absolutely fractional because you are never more than 4 pence away from your nearest nice round multiple of 5. And when you divide that back down across your whole year, it basically adds half of a penny to each class, which is completely negligible. And for me, it's absolutely worth offsetting that sort of head scratching moment where they're looking at your price list going, why are they charging and 13 pence? How did they get to that number? So just a little tip there, but you can do it exactly the way that you want to for that. Now, there's a bit of a problem, and this is when our payments don't align with how our classes are delivered. And this is probably the primary reason that stops people moving to monthly, when they want to know how do I work it out when a person leaves, or if they drop a class, or if they join late, what goes on. So if we don't address that, it can lead to some parents misunderstanding. It can lead to some uncomfortable conversations. It can lead to you having to whip a spreadsheet together to try and explain it to them and to understand it yourself, which ultimately, being just humans like we are, we sometimes let that job fall off the back, or we never got back to their email, and then we just end up maybe losing money because we've not figured out properly how we want to handle what happens when a person leaves or if they join. I know that I've defaulted to this in the past, where I've kind of gone, oh yeah, well just start your payments from next time because I can't work it out. Whereas once you've actually taken a bit of time to understand this and to put your own processes in place, then you'll be in a position where you can say, okay, you're picking up a class on the 10th of the month. That means that you need to pay 5% of your last bill to catch you up to the rest of the team, and then you'll start your payments from next month like everybody else does. So that is something, again, put a pin in that, because it's unique to each person. It's based on your local authority calendar, how many weeks you're open for, the prices that you charge, how often your classes happen. That's not something we can just give you a formula on, but it is absolutely very, very simple to work out. It's just an individual thing. And ever since I sat down and worked mine out, it was the most empowering thing I've done, especially when it comes to people leaving. Not too long ago, I think it was February, had a customer go, all on good terms, thankfully. There was no drama, no fireworks, but they did turn around to me and say, oh, is it possible to get the last payment back because we've just paid for the next month? And previously, if I hadn't worked that out, I'd have just, been my good-natured self and gone, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll ping it back over to you. But because I was able to work out, because of the monthly cadence, where they'd actually got up to, I was able to work out that they were actually only entitled to a 40% refund of their last bill, because some of that payment was heading towards classes they'd already attended. And I know I mentioned this at the beginning, we are getting quite close to addressing it. But when it comes to people's cadence of when they pay and the classes they come to and those things not aligning, that is a big fear for a lot of people. But there is a very, very simple way to largely eliminate it. And it's actually on this slide. So I'm going to go a bit numbersy for a second. Bear with me though, because it will calm down. If you charge monthly, like we are talking about doing, and a lot of people do now, and it's getting out there, all the sort of business coaches and mentors in the dance and gymnastics space especially, are all telling us to adopt a monthly payment method. And a lot of us are doing that. But if we charge for, say, September, on the 1st of September, I'm going to just go through a little problem with you, okay? Earlier on, we worked out that if you charged £5 a class, then your monthly payment was £16.25. In fact, we could actually just quickly skip back to that. I know, sorry, Rebecca, I'm going a little bit off tangent here. I'm going to just find it.
It's quite all right, Rob. I will forgive you just this once.
Here we go. I know I'm on a timer and everything. So yeah, if you charge £5 per class, you can see here the monthly cost is £16.25. But the problem is, and most of you have probably figured this out already, there's going to be 4 weeks worth of lessons in September, which means that a person's come to £20 worth of lessons, but they've only paid £16.25. And that is the fundamental problem with charging monthly, is things don't always align. Sometimes the customer is behind and sometimes the customer is ahead. But the way that we can massively reduce that risk is by charging around 2 weeks in advance. And this has got a few other benefits that we can talk about later too. So if we charge just for the month on the month, September is paid on the 1st of September, then for around 200 days of the year, your customers are behind. So it's quite a big risk, and means that if anybody does drop a class or stop coming, you've got to have that awkward conversation afterwards of saying, oh, actually, are you able just to make a payment to cover off the balance of, and they will never understand it that way. People always perceive a notice period and a closing payment as a business just trying to get one more payment out of you. A bit like the gym does, because with the gym, you're just paying for access, whereas we're not a gym, you're actually paying for classes that you've attended. So rather than having to deal with that awkwardly after the fact, we can almost entirely prevent it by charging ideally around the 15th of the month before. That brings that risk day factor down from 200 days to just 50. Now, if you wanted to entirely eliminate it, then really you should be looking at charging a month in advance. But personally, I like to give my customers a little bit more leeway. So we've gone for the middle of the month rather than charging an entire month in advance. But this is where it depends on where you're coming from. Because if you're currently charging termly, then you're asking for 4 months worth of money up front anyway. So for you to ask for 1 month, but 1 month in advance, actually means that if you're in a position where you're charging termly right now, you could go to 1 month in advance and completely circumvent that risk day factor. And it'll mean that your customers are essentially in credit constantly. And if someone does up and leave or drops a class, it's then up to you, because the money is already with you. And it's at your discretion as to whether you choose to refund them that unconsumed credit amount, or whether you turn around and say, very sorry to see you going. You're welcome to carry on attending until this date, which is where you're paid up until, and that will be your last class. So I'm all in favor of putting the power in the business owner's hands, and this is one way that you can do that. So I think we've covered everything that was on that slide. Yep. Now, one of the other sort of hidden benefits that I mentioned earlier when we do go to a monthly payment method is everything else, or most things that are monthly in a customer's life, are automatically taken. So a lot of the times our utility bills, it's just taken. Our TV license, it is just taken. Our gym membership is just taken. The council tax is just taken. There's an assumption behind the monthly payment that is, it will just get taken. Now, that is fantastic. That is music to my ears. As somebody who used to charge half-termly, send out those 6 and 7 week invoices and watch the student walk in every week without an envelope in their hand. Has mum sent any money tonight? No, she's not. Okay, enjoy your class. And I can hear some of you saying, well, I wouldn't let them in. Well, I can't do that. I'm too much of a pushover. And the idea that when we move to monthly is that our customers will actually expect us to just take the money from them. That is the most fantastic news ever, because it switches us from a place of, I hope my customers remember to pay, to I just take the money out of their bank account, like their internet, like their mortgage, like their other utility bills, and it is just the best thing for reducing your debt. So how do we do that? We need to make sure that we've got a way of them paying automatically, whether that be through having most commonly a card on file, but we also need the sort of business processes in there to back that up as well. So make sure that your terms and conditions, your joining agreement, anything like that that you have very clearly and very simply states, this is how payments work. This is when we're going to charge you. This is what to do if you ever want to cancel. Here's what happens if you're in credit. Here's what happens if you're behind. And these things don't need to be huge, lengthy, small print documents. ChatGPT is a fantastic tool that everyone is using these days. Just have a conversation with it, tell it what you want it to say, and then say, now give me this as concise and as idiot-proof as possible, and it will give you the most beautiful dance or gymnastics or football or hockey user agreements for your parents. It has been absolute lifesaver. And as I say, since implementing this myself, I've only ever had to explain something to one, maybe two people over the years that we've done it. So it has been really, really good for us. Now, if you have come to us for this webinar and you are still charging termly or monthly right now, if you listen to anything, listen to this bit, because this is a fantastic hidden opportunity and it will only come around once. It's obviously your choice whether you take it or not, but I'm here to say I would recommend that you do, because we did this ourselves and it caused us absolutely no problems whatsoever. So what I'm talking about is that you've got an opportunity, if you do switch from termly to monthly, to put your price up, which again, every mentor out there is probably constantly telling you to do, to charge what you're worth and to stay in line with all the raising costs that are going on. But we can raise our price and have it feel like a price decrease. And I've been testing this constantly with people that I have conversations with. And I ask them, would you rather pay £30 to £35 a half term, £65 per term, or £17.45 per month? That's really difficult for me to read out all those numbers because I always get them muddled up. But there we go, first shot. And over 90% of the people that I speak to tell me they'd rather pay £17.45 a month. Now there's a bit of a hidden difference here, and I'm going to see if I can highlight that. So this one is £5 a class. This one is £5 a class, but this one is, I've got it written down actually, is £5.38 a class. And the reason for the £5.38 is we've actually put in a price increase, because you probably need to do one, and a percentage that covers our card charges. Now, that's something really important to factor in. If you are going to take automatic payments, obviously consider your platform fee, consider whatever the percentage is that you'll get charged from your card provider, and bake it into your price, just like you do with every other business expense. When we switched from charging half termly, so we were £30-35 per lesson per half term, and we moved to £17.45, which was a price increase and covered our card charges. So I never had to worry about that ever again, because once you're over the line of baking your card charges into your prices, you completely stop thinking about it, because you just know that it is covered. And as I say, I've been asking parents this ad hocly at the studio, and I ask pretty much every business owner that I end up on a call with when this topic comes up. And it's just fantastic that most people would rather pay this amount, even though it's more per class. And it's because it's a smaller, more manageable, regular, predictable amount, rather than getting stung with a big bill. And that's only for one class. Average student will do 3, 4, 5 classes a week. So it can make a really big difference. Now, I rambled a bit. But earlier on, I did say that we moved from monthly to from termly, half-termly to monthly payments, and it was one of the best things we ever did. And this is because this was actually me. These are real numbers. In 2023, we went into the summer holidays with over £5,000 outstanding. Now, bear in mind, as I said earlier, it's not just the half term. It's not just the 7 weeks. It's the 1 week half term before that as well. So it's an 8-week period. So these guys had 8 weeks to get their bill settled, and we made it to the end of term with a lot of people still having not paid, which for us was really scary because we still have to pay our landlord, we still have to pay our insurances and our rates and all those extra business costs that we all have. They didn't stop just because a lot of our customers didn't get around to paying us on time. So that was the moment for us where we had to say, right, something's got to change. So we implemented the monthly payments, and then the following year we went into the summer holidays with only £800 outstanding, and that was only from 3 customers. So we'd massively reduced the amount of debt that we had, and it just meant everyone was able to pay because it was a smaller, more manageable, more predictable amount. Most people by then had also adopted the automatic payments, which I thought was going to cause absolute torches and pitchforks. I thought I was going to have a riot when I made automatic payments mandatory. The only person that came to speak to me about it, and my heart dropped when she said, "Can I talk to you about this automatic payment thing?" And I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. And it was literally to say thank you, because she said, "I always forget, and I always think that you guys think I'm trying not to pay, but I'm just really busy. I've got 3 kids, I've got 2 jobs." And she just wanted to say thank you that we brought that in. And that was literally the only conversation I had about monthly payments. Everyone else just took it. And it was such a positive for our business. And as I say, I mean, the numbers are right there. 1 year we were owed over £5,000. The next year it was 800. For us, it was absolutely fantastic. Now, there are a lot of but what abouts, and for me, you will know your setup better than I ever can. You will know your customers better than I ever can. So a lot of the time it's your discretion, but I know what I would advise, and I know what advice is going around there in the industry. So a couple of common questions, or common, so I guess we call them hiccups, is people who want to pay on a different date. It is best for you, for your sanity and for your cash flow, if everybody pays on the same date, because if all of your payments are due on the 15th, you know that you can look at your system on the 17th of every month, and anything that is still there is outstanding. And the automated reminders can handle it, or you can make some manual interventions if you wanted to. Now, again, I said earlier, I am a pushover, and I do have a couple of people that pay on a different date, but I am very much whittling that down now, and I only have 2 customers who pay on not the same date as everybody else. One is just in a compassionate circumstance, and that's my way of being able to help them out by being flexible with them. And the other is just a huge customer who's got 2 daughters that do about 13 classes a week each. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm willing to do 1 more minute of admin to allow her to pay on a date that works for her. But going forward, I'm starting to raise the bar of, you're going to have to be pretty special for me to want to have to do the extra work. Because ultimately, once a person's got used to that payment date, they'll just fall in line with everybody else anyway. So toughen up on it if you can. I know it took me a while, but I do recommend keeping everyone on the same date. And then the next one is, when people quit, do they owe money? Do you owe them money? As I said earlier, it is something that is unique to you, and you will need to figure that out, but we can absolutely help you figure that out. And then it gives you a really simple black and white way of, when someone does leave, or if someone joins midway through a month, then you can just look at your little chart and say, right, this is how much you owe, or this is how much we owe you, or this is when you're welcome to carry on attending to, depending on how you like to work it. But it completely demystifies the whole thing. And then this is a question, again, I've only had this question 1 time, and I know that it is a huge fear for us in this space, is customers turning around and saying, why have I still got to pay in August? Aren't you closed? Now, we can tie that back in to charging on the 15th of the month before, which means that when my August payment comes out, it's actually being requested in the middle of July, which is the end of the school year for us. And I can turn around to people and I can phrase this. I even actually name the season on the bill. I even name it final installment of this academic year. So they know that that August bill is closing off the lessons that they come to. But if you don't charge a little bit in advance, then the customer is at a risk of getting that bill on the 1st of August and going, oh, that must be a mistake, they're closed, and then just deleting it, not realizing that that final 12th installment is because you've allowed them to spread the cost over that period. So there's a whole bunch of these little sort of whatabouts, and there's answers for almost all of them. They're 3 of the most common ones. But if you do have any questions like that and anything that you're concerned about, get in touch with us. We'd love to help you overcome it. And then just a little bit about how Class Manager handles this billing side of things. So previously, if you're working this out manually, it would be quite complicated to look at each class and each person and their combination, and they've got a sister who also does acro and have to work everything out. Class Manager will handle all of that for you. So you tell the system what your class price is, how long the duration is, whether it's a term commitment, a half-term commitment. You do the whole school year in one go, and then you can tell the system, how do you want people to pay? So do you want to have them sign in for the year and then pay weekly? Do you want to do a half term and then split it over months or fortnights? It's really, really flexible. The new billing system is absolutely fantastic. Recommend you have a play with it. And then when it comes to how we actually roll this out, it's totally up to you. But something we would advise is always communicate it nice and early. Make sure you've got your plan fully worked out, though. Try not to jump the gun and say, hey, everyone, we're going monthly, and then not have the answers ready. Make sure you've got all the information. Think about, put yourself in the position of your most awkward customer. I know you've got one because I've got 2. And imagine the questions they're going to come to you with. Get those answered first. Maybe turn it into a policy, turn it into an FAQ, turn it into the template email that goes out with every invoice, so that people have constantly got access to the information they need to answer those awkward questions. And then once we're ready, once everything's good, I would recommend September as the ideal time to roll this out, or in this case, it would be August, because we want to try and get that payment in early. So that August payment that everyone was worried about actually becomes you're signing up for September. So to get your commitment, get in for September, we pay in August. By bringing it 2 weeks early, instead of it being perceived as that, oh, why are we paying? We're closed. It turns into, I've signed up for dance, or I've signed up for gymnastics. I've paid for September by moving it 2 weeks earlier. So as I say, there's lots of things to consider, and moving to monthly can be a fantastic move for your cash flow, for your customers' cash flow, for the way that they perceive your services as well. It's not I send a bank transfer once a half term. It's, I've signed up, I've got a membership, payments come out automatically, I get a receipt straight away. All of those little things that just help them see you as more of a serious service, because we're all at risk of being seen as, oh, it's just the kid's hobby. It's just what she does part-time. What's your real job, by the way? Have we all been there? I can't see you, but I know a few people are going to be face palming at that one because we've all heard it. But yeah, there's a few things there to consider. So if you want any help with any of it, any questions to ask, please do get in touch. But that is, I believe, the last slide. So Rebecca, can I pass back to you?
Thank you so much, Rob. That was really interesting. And I don't own a dance studio, but I completely understand. And I personally, if I had children going to a dance studio, I would completely understand the monthly billing and probably would prefer it as well. That is all from Rob. So if anyone does have any questions, this is your opportunity to kind of ask them, and we'll be here to help. Otherwise, if you had any questions in the future, you can always drop us an email at hello@classmanager.com. Chloe, you've raised your hand. How can we help?
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm actually already do monthly billing, and I've done it for 7 years, and honestly, I hate it.
Oh,
Yeah, but obviously it's the way that I'm doing it that is not right.
Okay.
So my biggest problem, one of my biggest problems is every month I've got about 30 leavers and I have to calculate how much money they owe. Obviously, one of the issues for me is that they're always in arrears because I have been starting mine on the 1st of September. So they're always in arrears. So they always owe money when they leave.
And they never want to pay it, do they?
No, and they never want to pay it. And then there's always a lot of conflicts, or they just cancel their direct debit or whatever. They cancel their subscription and they just, ghost you, and which is quite upsetting as well when you've had these great relationships with people and then they don't want to pay what they owe at the end. But what is the best method for working it out? Because I noticed that you are still working it out if they're ahead or behind, but how are you doing that without it literally taking up a ridiculous amount of brain power and manual labor?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing when you ask how to get out of that, you can do this like a plaster and rip it off, or you can do it gradually. And what I'd recommend is each month, bring the date that your payments are due slightly earlier. So you can literally do that a day at a time for the next 2 years, and eventually you'll be in the middle, or you could bring it in a week, however you want to do it. But to stop people being behind and then having to chase as much money, we need to get them to pay around 2 weeks before the month, and that will circumvent a lot of that problem. And then when someone leaves, you're more than likely, probably, I think the statistics is actually 50-ish out of the 350 days, they'll owe you. But for 300 days of the year, chances are you're going to have some of their credit, and if they leave, you can say, well, you're welcome to this, little bit of a refund, or you can carry on attending until this date. And then the next question of how do we work it out? The short answer is you have a spreadsheet that I'm absolutely happy to share. I've got a visual which I'm going to drag into the screen share right now. Be prepared though, because I've had to spend a lot of time with this. And it's just one of those things. If we want to be able to offer monthly payments, we need to sort of have this kind of stuff worked out, but we can easily put this on a spreadsheet template for you as well. So the one that I use, I can't share it because it's got other personal data, but I basically go down my list and go, so if you said to me, I'm quitting today, I'd go, right, 23rd of July, and I can see you owe 5% of your next bill, or I owe you 15% of your last payment. And it's dead simple. It takes me a minute. I've got it starred on a Google sheet. I love it. I'll share it with you. Make sure we've got we'll have your email from signing up for the webinar, won't we? So what you're explaining to me, and I hope you can see it, I'm going to zoom right in. The green bars are when people pay, and the blue bars, the dark blue bars, are the classes they come to. And then down here is the parents' account balance. So whenever they're behind, it goes red, and whenever they're ahead, it stays blue. And as you can see, throughout the year, it starts to grow, it shrinks again. But the big problem for me with charging on the 1st of the month is by the time you get to June and July, or even May, June and July, there's an awful lot of red here. And if this is when they decide, I'm not doing gymnastics anymore, I'm not going dancing anymore, then you've got to say, okay, that's fine, but you're actually massively behind because of. Whereas if we bring that example to the 15th, which is just below, we still do have a few red weeks, but they are so much less common and so much less severe. As I say, ultimately, the dream is getting them to charge 1 month in advance, but I couldn't do that. I feel like because of the position I was in, from half termly, we were only able to take it so far. But if anyone out there is currently charging termly, then they're in a position where they probably can just move to 1 month ahead, and it will be absolutely fine for their customers. Did that help? Did that answer?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, that spreadsheet's just amazing because I am literally manually calculating every person every time. It takes me like a whole day of each month to work it out, basically.
I'll give you one quick caveat, because every student is unique. Some people dance twice on a Wednesday, once on a Saturday, or 4 lessons on a Thursday, or they come on a Monday and a Tuesday. You would need to do like a spreadsheet per kid, and I think hell no to that. So on the one that I use, I assume that a student dances 1 class every day, and then it turns it into a percentage. So I know that within a 90% accuracy, I can say, based on today's date, you owe me, and I always do it as a percentage. I'll never go back to like the per class level, because that is me falling back into working out, okay, well, you dance twice on a Wednesday and you quitting on a Friday, so that means that you've had half of the week before. Yeah, no time for that. There is no good and quick way to do that. It is best just to bundle it all together, treat every day as a percentage, and know that you are within sort of 90% accuracy, but you're saving loads of time.
Yeah. Perhaps you don't have this in your business, but we have some people on discounts, and that causes a massive headache when they add or drop classes, because every time they add or drop a class, the cost of all of the classes changes, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And it's just more than my brain can cope with.
Yeah, so I guess I know exactly what you mean, because you'd almost want to work out the cost difference between the 2 payments. And for me personally, my discount scheme is very, very simple. So it's a negligible impact for me. But if you did want to work it out, then you could use the same spreadsheet to say, well, if you were dropping this class now, you'd be owed 50%. So you know what the difference is. Personally, I would say it might be worth looking at a couple of examples, a couple of dramatic examples, and then work out the value. And if it turns out that actually over the course of a month, the worst it's ever going to happen is maybe £2.88, I would then weigh that up of, is that worth me sitting and working out, or do I just let it slide, knowing that their next payment and all future payments will be correct?
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you for your question.
Amazing. Thank you, Chloe. Has anyone else got any questions or anything at all? What we'll do after this webinar is we will send out a recording of everything, and then on that we will also add an option for you to book in a demo if you wanted to find out a little bit more about monthly payments, how to move it over, and how Class Manager can help with that. Absolutely no obligation to do so, but it is an option if you wanted to as well. So on that note, any further questions? Otherwise, we will wish you all a lovely rest of your afternoon and a great week, and hopefully the sunshine is here to stay wherever you are as well.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye now.